is contacttalkradio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on tunein.com, hing.fm, and Upsnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to Life Mastery with Todd Allen, the talk radio show that dives into the science of higher consciousness. Join Todd and his guests weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific Time and learn how to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery. Enjoy a survey of inspiring topics such as abundance, intention, health, manifestation, love, and transformation. It's all right here. Leading authors, speakers, coaches, entrepreneurs with stories and messages to support your well-being, let alone your most evocative dreams.
Hey, it's another groovy day, and most of you already know, but I'm going to tell you anyway. That's because I make it that way. Every day when I start out my day, I get up before my feet hit the floor. I already decide it's going to be a groovy day, and the rest of the day, you know what, ends up being groovy. And if something isn't groovy, I can always think back and make it groovy and readjust and take on that challenge, and everything turns out groovy. And then when I go to sleep, I think back, it was all a groovy day and I can't wait to do it again tomorrow. That's the way my day goes. Of course, there's a lot of things in between there, but that's the way I started. That's the way I end it. And I'm a pretty happy guy. We're going to find out a lot more about how to be. And you know what? I have to say, it's almost like it's a miracle, or it creates this miraculous scenario for me to live by. And we're going to find out a lot more about that on today's show. Welcome to Life Mastery Radio, the talk show that brings you great thoughts and ideas for you to use on your very own life mastery journey. Before we get started, I like to get myself centered and situated and organized for some great content. I think more hosts should do this because it preps the listener and sets the stage for them to listen to some really great thoughts and ideas. So let's just take a minute and think about what it is that you connect to. What is it that you draw power from? What is it that gives you solace? What is it that you connect to? It could be God, it could be Allah, it could be the dude, it could be the surfer dude, it could be the doorknob that leads you to the outside world. Whatever it is, think about that for a minute, focus on it, and let's take in a deep breath. And just let that breath out with a big ah, and let that flow up from your solar plexus through your heart center, throat chakra, out of your speaker box, and out into the universe. This time, think about your dreams, visions, and goals. What is it that you aspire to do, be, or have? What is it that we're in the third quarter and we're coming down to the wire here for the new year. So think about those things that you still want to accomplish, and think about those things that you want to set up for next year. Anchor those. Let's take in a deep breath. And again, just let those things flow up right out of your speaker box out into the universe. Now here's the deal. Allow the universe the opportunity to make those come true for you. Head up, chin up, tail out from between your legs, wagging like a little puppy dog, looking around for those opportunities, because they're coming your way. And if your head's down, your tail's between your legs, you're going to miss them. So that's the deal. Okay, then. What else am I doing today? Oh, I'm going to do a show. Hi, Jackie. How are you today?
I'm so glad you remembered you're going to do a show.
And I have my good friend Jackie, and we have an awesome guest. Look at that smile. She's just sitting there patiently with a big, cute smile. But we got to open up. We got to talk about a couple things. I want to remind our listeners that today's show page is at www.lifemasteryradio.net or .com. Any links that we talk about will be right there. Links to our guest is already there. And while you're there, you can sign up for our newsletter. Jackie creates a newsletter every week and sends it out, and it highlights who's been on the show, who's coming on the show, and she does an amazing blog post about the show. it is amazing. And I always hear from our guests, wow, that's really cool. And you can almost picture them copying and pasting it somewhere, at least putting the link there.
I hope they do. That'd be awesome.
I think they do. And then I always take that, put it into the YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. Go and check it out. Find us. All the show. I think Jackie and I have close to 300 shows on YouTube.
At least, yeah.
It's pretty amazing, huh, Jackie?
Yeah.
But how are things? Jackie is also responsible for the Speak Feed Lead project, or at speakfeedlead.org. And it's all about, basically, if you boiled it all down, giving kids a voice and finding that voice and expressing it in a way that is all about is from them and about them.
Absolutely. And in fact, we are working on a workshop. It's actually a master class with myself and 3 other experts. This is going to be on Saturday, the 16th of October. And it's going to be for middle school, high school, and those that are in the first couple of years of college. It's called Raise Your GPA, which stands for Goals, Preparedness, and Aptitude.
Wow.
And get prepared for life after high school. So we've got these 4 experts. They're going to talk about different aspects of getting prepared for what comes after high school. Denise Thomas, who is an expert on finding scholarships. She put 2 or 3 of her children through school with scholarships and had money left over. She didn't pay anything for their college educations. And so she knows where to find all that stuff. And in fact, she'll tell you to start looking for scholarships when your children are in kindergarten. Can you believe it? They're there. And then we've got Dr. Moses McCutcheon. He has a system, an assessment system that will help any child understand exactly what career is best for them based on this aptitude test that they take. And that way they don't have to get in, go for some major and then find out it was a big mistake. They don't like it. It's going to save them lots of time and money. And then we've got Dale Troy, who is an expert on preparing how to cook, how to manage your time, how to iron your clothes. I mean, all those basic things that many kids they get to college and they're like, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. So,
change a tire, cook a meal.
That's right. And then I will be teaching about how to craft your personal essay or your personal video that has to go along with your college submission papers. And they read them and they'll let you know if they want you at their institution or not. So that's what my workshop will be about. And so it's going to be really great. Raise your GPA. Check it out on the Speak Feed Lead Project Facebook page and get your kid registered. It's $47 for the entire family to be there. So you would spend 3 times that much going out to dinner. So sit there with your kids, your teenagers, listen to this wonderful workshop and all these experts and really get some great information.
It's amazing the acronyms you come up with for certain. We were talking about an acronym the other day. What was that acronym?
It was for Groovy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I haven't seen that yet, but I
know
that your mind.
But I haven't done it yet.
I didn't. You did. I know you're working on it, so I can't hardly wait.
Yep.
Other than that, Jackie and I's book is on our website too. You can go there, click on the link. Here's mine. She should have hers close by. There it is.
There it is.
Both our books, and our guest today has a book too. Hopefully she has a copy because we're going to ask her to show it pretty soon. Are you ready for the show? I think it's time to do a show.
Absolutely.
I think
you know what? I have always sought for miracles in my life, and today's guest is going to tell us how we find those miracles, how we recognize them. So I'm excited.
They're everywhere, and their definition would just blow people away. So we're going to find out more about that. Our guest today is Wendy Darling, and she is the founder of the Miraculous Living Institute, a personal and professional growth organization offering presentations, seminars, retreats, and private coaching. Wendy is recognized expert on navigating change and achieving your desired results. Her transformational system, the Miraculous Living Method, provides the vehicle for achieving those results with greater ease and speed. Where do I sign up? I need some of this. No, I'm just kidding. With more than 40 years of experience as a business and life transformation expert, Wendy is also a keynote speaker, master healing practitioner, management and organizational development consultant, manager and executive entrepreneur, and of course, a talk radio show host personality. Welcome to Life Mastery Radio. She wrote this book, and this book is called Create Your Miraculous Life. It's never too late. Hi, Wendy. Everyone knows it's Wendy. That song's just like cruising in my head. How are you today, my friend?
I'm great and happy to be with you both.
You got the first part of that right. It starts with G, but it should be groovy, not great.
I'll try to remember that in the future.
You're from that era too, huh?
I am.
Yep.
It's true. I turned 70 this year, which
You look fabulous.
well, thanks. I'm still in denial, but I mean, I know it's there, but I have to say I've never had an age issue, but that was a pretty big pill to swallow this year. And of course, it beats the alternative. So I'm grateful, and I'm committed to transforming what the 70s may look like and be like and beyond.
Those are some fun times. You're 10 years old. You're 10 years older than me exactly. And I had a blast in the 70s. The 60s were there. I can remember just some of the things, especially the man walking on the moon. And I was in high school in the 70s, but you were already an adult and just really in the groove with the 70s. That must have been a lot of fun.
Yes.
Well, I think it's fun that the people who were listening to all those great music scene in the 70s are now in their 70s. Yeah. Because when you go into the care centers, you're hearing the Rolling Stones, Used to be you were hearing like
I've never thought of that.
The big bands, right? And now it's like the Rolling Stones. It's amazing.
Oh, let's shift.
So when you wrote this book,
Yes.
You wrote this book during COVID, and I think it's a great gift to people that are coming out the other side, because from what I see and what I hear, a lot of people I don't want to say they're desperate, but they've lost a little bit of hope. They're not sure on the direction. People are being challenged in their work life today, and I can just see people I need a miracle. I need a miracle.
Yeah. First of all, when I first started to write this book, I was feeling the pull to write another book. My first book, The Miracle That Is Your Life, came out about 6 years ago. And I could feel that I was being guided to write this next book.
Very cool.
And it started out more with the theme of it's never too late. Obviously, it was very present in my own life. Here I was 69, rapidly approaching 70. And even though I'm blessed with good health, there is still a lot I want to be experiencing, much more that I want to be contributing. So that initially was the theme. And then now we're in the pandemic. And if that was not enough, for my own personal experience, my son became seriously ill last year. And so I think it's safe to say that my life was feeling very unmiraculous. Mm. And I seem to get myself in these places that force me to first dig really deep to find what's necessary to start making that shift. And by the way, before we go any further, my son's doing very well today. Yay. We're cautiously optimistic. But it was, I really think writing this book, it's right behind me. It was in part therapeutic for me. I've committed my own journey of personal and spiritual evolution throughout my almost my entire adult life. Much more present starting 30 years ago after a serious accident. And my life shifted dramatically at that point, because not only of my injuries, but things that resulted. And we can talk more about that if you're interested.
Well, that's kind of, we are human. And you experienced miracles, you identified miracles, and yet what you described to me was getting on that path again where you need to explore it and bring that feeling, bring that essence back into your life, where you recognize, just by being here, just by talking to you today, this is truly a miracle.
Really? I mean, I'm sitting in my place in San Diego. You guys are in Seattle. We've got people tuning in from all over the place, which is awesome. Yeah, I really, in a lot of ways, my early adult childhood was pretty traumatic. I had a mom who was really highly critical. Actually, she was abusive, both mentally and physically. But when I got out of that house, I excelled. I was breathing for the first time, got involved in I was a sixth grade teacher, got in trouble all the time with my principal that year that I taught. Went back to college, got a couple of degrees. I was dean of students for a program called Semester at Sea, lived on a ship, sailed around the world with about 700 co-educational students. We could spend a lot of time talking about that.
Oh man, that's awesome.
And it was also when one gray hair popped out. I mean, it was probably the most stressful experience I've ever had in my life, not to mention totally sleep deprived. It was extraordinary, though. I got to go places and experience things that under normal circumstances probably would not. But I got into training and development and management and organizational development consulting. So I was living a very traditional life. I was also highly driven. Some people might call that a workaholic. And I had an abrupt stop. I was extremely sick. I started my business 40 years ago in 1981. And I was working with a Fortune 100 company, traveling all over the United States. And at this point, I am sick as a dog. Yet I was in the part of my life where I guess I felt I was invincible. And I thought the show must go on. So I'm going to get on that airplane and fly to LA. And so I go out the Dallas airport. And obviously, this is in 1990, before some of the restrictions we have today. And unfortunately, I passed out and I fell over a ledge and I fell approximately 25 feet.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was an owie. And so my right leg was shattered. I had back fractures. It took multiple surgeries and about 11 months before I knew if I would walk again, which I'm blessed I do. Much later down the road, and I'll get to that in a little bit, I was diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury. Because remember, this was 1990.
Right.
Brain injuries were not at the top of the food chain like they are today. We know so much more.
Right.
But that also brought gifts. But while I was still in the hospital, week 4, my former husband came, suitcases packed, saying he no longer wished to be married any longer.
Ouch
And even
again. Ouch again.
Yeah. And even though I take full responsibility for my portion that contributed to that decision, we might agree that the timing was not exactly optimal. Not that it ever really is.
Right.
And if all of this was not enough, when we went to court, my former husband happens to be an attorney, and he was awarded full custody of our son, who was only 4.5 at that time. And that's really when something literally snapped inside of me. I was not okay. Prior to my accident, I was one of those fearless people. Somebody said, "Can you do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And then I'd figure it out. Now, suddenly, everything, I was living, if you want to say, by a blank slate. There was nothing in my life that I could call my identity, from my health to my business to my family, everything. And I remember being in the hospital and just talk about praying for a miracle. I probably did not use those words back then. And I'm like, God, if you help me dig out of this hole, because I was like, what choices had I been making that got me where I was? And what was going to need to be different to dig out of this very deep hole that I found myself in. And it was my mom who suggested I learn how to meditate. And at that time, quieting my mind was a complete oxymoron, but desperate times, right? So I'm like, sure, fine. So I found somebody. I was living in Dallas at the time, and I found somebody that was teaching in his home. And after a couple of times being with him, I remember saying something like, it's really interesting. Every time I almost feel like my mind is going to relax, I get this urge to sing. And he said, well, sing.
Sing.
And I started laughing. I said, you don't understand. I actually have people in my life that request I not do that. And so he said, Wendy, really, just see what happens. So I went back.
Who cares what they think? Go for it.
Yeah. So I went back to that little place in his house and got into that space, and I allowed what was kind of a melodic type of singing to come out of me. And for the first time in a very long time, not only did my mind begin to relax, but so did my body. Mm-hmm. And so as I mentioned, I was living in Dallas. What they say is true. Everything is a little bit bigger. I had a nice walk-in closet. I was totally in the closet with all of this. And that's where I would do my meditation and my singing. And now I'm back at the instructor's home again. We have finished our whatever, and I'm walking down the hallway, and I passed by one of the other people in our small group, and out of my mouth, I say, hey, you have a block around your heart. And I'm thinking to myself, where did that come from? And then, so I'm further walking forward, and the instructor's son, who was just a teen at the time, but just a real tuned in, intuitive guy, I hear him way back behind me saying, hey, to the same person, you have a block around your heart. And I'm thinking, what is happening to me? I was just your traditional consultant, wore suits, all of that. Now suddenly I'm singing and feeling better. I'm starting to see energy. And so, to kind of cliff notes it, cut to the chase, little by little, I started accepting and working with what is now the miraculous living method. So not only is it sound healing, but I also received about 100 designs that also hold a frequency. And combining the two creates a very unique circuitry that allows to release the undercurrent, the interference holding people back. And then another piece of the miraculous living method that sets me apart from most practitioners is there is also brain training. We now have so much more information about how the mind works. And so this allows to literally train the mind, either strengthen existing neural pathways or create new ones, so that your mind and your deepest desires are walking hand in hand, and you can get what you want, your desires, your results easier and faster. So even though I had wished that it happened a little bit easier for myself, at least the good news is now I can make it much easier for the people that I serve. And I love that. So I work with entrepreneurs, for example, to build their business. Because remember, I still have this business side of me and the strategic side of me that still lives and breathes. But I have this piece that helps to move people forward so much easier. So I help people make more money. I work with singles to attract love, couples who want to replenish their relationships. I have worked with youth who either have learning disabilities or some emotional trauma of some sort. And, I could give you lots and lots of other examples. So I feel very blessed that this is what I can offer today.
Wow.
And what I'm very curious about is it took a tragedy. It actually took 3 to get you to the point where you could be open to some new thought process and open to some new experiences. Do you look back on that now as more than just lessons learned, but actually this was a pivotal moment in my life that put me on a different path that I didn't even know existed, but someone knew I needed to be on that path to make the greatest impact in my life? And do you feel that you would have ever gotten on this path without that?
Boy, that's a real hard one to answer. I'll never know.
Yeah.
But, people have asked, even good friends, do you think it was your brain injury that opened this up? Falling 25 feet also was a bit of a shocker, to say the least,
Yeah.
not to mention the personal traumas. I definitely know that was my humongous wake-up call. My life was not bad before, but I think the one of the pivotal moments was I was living a life that I thought I should live,
Right.
as opposed to what this path opened me up to was a lot of deep healing from my youth. My process, I have to add, you don't have to go back. You don't have to remember. You don't have to relive. The process takes care of it. We design your future of the life you want to be living, and we close that gap. The undercurrent of your past emotional experiences and traumas and heartaches and blah, 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 that gets taken away. That gets taken care of by the process. And I love that. I love that people don't have to try to figure out or find or relive experiences in their lives that were already horrific.
Well, let's just back up a little bit and help some of our listeners out. Define for us what you consider a miracle is.
Everything. One of my favorite quotes that's right in the front of my book, or near the front, is from, I just had a moment.
No worries.
Einstein.
Oh yeah, I know which one you're going to say.
I think it's Einstein. I wanted to
live
say
your
Mark
life.
Twain. You see, this is where brain injury sometimes gets a little wonky. It does happen still.
Well, I don't have a brain injury, but I still like to use that as an excuse.
I leverage it whenever I can. I do that when I speak in front of groups. I let them know every now and then I'll get these little blips, and I won't have any idea what I'm talking about. Yeah. So I tell them, you have to be listening really well, because I may have to ask you, what was I just talking about? So at any rate, Albert Einstein says, in his perspective, there are two ways to look at life. One is if nothing is a miracle. The other is everything is a miracle.
That's true.
Now, to answer your question even more specifically, I think as we, first of all, start even looking at what does a miracle really look like to you, because it's personal. And we start paying attention. Right now I'm looking out of my office window and I'm seeing palm trees and beautiful green and clouds, unusually so for San Diego. But it's miraculous. A couple years ago, I had an echocardiogram because my dad died when he was 56 of a heart attack. And I wanted to make sure, my ticker was still working okay. And what was beautiful about this experience was I had had other tests before, but I never seen my heart in action. Yeah. And if you've ever had that experience, talk about 24/7 marathon. That little sucker is just working so hard and fast every single solitary.
It is an amazing vision when you get a sonogram and they say, look, right there's your heart. And you're like,
oh my gosh, you want to talk about it. It's miraculous. And I'm 70 and it's still just going strong. And I honestly talk about gratitude. It's like, let's keep on going.
It's a great way to get connected too, right? It's like, oh, there is this thing. It's no longer just a vision in your head. It's like, whoa, that thing is there. And that's what makes me tick, or at least keeps me ticking.
It's really true.
Yeah.
And I think
cool.
miracles are also, it doesn't have to be like the waters are parting kind of miracles. It can be a surprise phone call or a connection, or, in my case, a speaking engagement comes out, falls from the sky, or a consulting opportunity, or being a guest on a wonderful radio show or TV show. And so miracles are everywhere all the time.
You just have to keep your chin up, tail out from between your legs, and just be aware that they're everywhere, right?
You just need to pay attention. And I think a very easy entry point is also pay attention to what you're grateful for, because those are the blessings and true miracles of our lives. And I can honestly say there has been more than one time in my life that I had to really dig deep. What can I be grateful for today? Okay, my heart's beating, I'm able to breathe. I have a roof over my head. There's so many things that we honestly take for granted, and we have become desensitized in a lot of ways to just life. And I think one of the gifts that this pandemic has brought for many people, and I hope many more, is that it has given us a forced time out and possibly looking at what really matters. Because people, like you were saying, have lost jobs, have lost loved ones, have themselves become ill, have financial challenges. We can look at the negative, but there have also been positives where people have said, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
I don't want to waste any more time. I'm going to start doing this.
There are a lot of people these days making those choices. You hear about it, you see it, it's just everywhere. It's just like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore.
And I'm not taking away from those that are still really struggling or lost in some way, that the rug's been pulled out from under them. But what I am here to say is there is always opportunity. My rug, well, in my case, it was a bungee jump without the cord. But I don't want somebody to have a traumatic experience. Say we get a little nudge, we get a little this, we get a little that. And I'm like, what was I not paying attention to? And so it's an opportunity to really look at what matters to you most. I have a list of 400 values that help people really target maybe your top 5 or 10, and then start looking at how that lines up to your life. And also, as I've mentioned, really getting in touch, not just what matters to you, but I call this magic wand time. If you could wave a magic wand, what would you really want your life to look like? What do you really want to be experiencing?
That's a great way to ask it. That is just awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Well, I have a question about miracles themselves, because your book is titled Create a Miraculous Life. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, so where are the miracles coming from? Are we creating these miracles? Are they just happening by chance around us? Or is there an entity in charge of divvying them out? I mean, what is your belief in how do we get to view these miracles in the most helpful way for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a co-creative experience.
I was going to say.
I, first of all, have to be asking for miracles, and I have to be open to receiving them. Every single client I've ever worked with up to this point has been restricted in some way in their ability to receive. That's one of the first things I do when I work with people. I open them up so that not only they can receive, but they're also more in tune to what it is that they want to be experiencing. And yes, I do believe in a higher power. As you were saying before, you can call it whatever you want. I happen to believe in God, and I believe God works through me when I work with my clients. I believe that there is a universal intelligence that is constantly working with us and guiding us to our best self and our best life. And our most significant contributions. And so once we start becoming more sensitized to the fact that there are miracles, that we ask for miracles, we start to pay more attention. Doesn't mean it's going to show up in 5 minutes, but I promise you, you stay open. You don't have to keep asking. You know, the prescription has been written, but you have to also tap into believing it's possible. And I think that a lot of people right now have lost maybe faith and trust and the belief that they can have a better life. And the reason my subtitle is It's Never Too Late, and there are lots of examples in there, is it's never too late for anything.
Can't say it more plainly.
Yeah, it really isn't. Anything's possible. And then you have people like myself that can help find those places within you that maybe has kept you stuck or limited in some way. And we open you up, we train your mind, you learn the miraculous living method, and you're able to use it. And, you know, pretty soon you're off with your bad self, enjoying your life.
And creating miracles.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate very much that your book talks about diet. There's some diet training in there as well, because for me, changing my diet has been a miraculous healing part of my existence in the last 10, 12 years. Tell us a little bit about that, about how even what we're putting into our body physically is part of that miracle.
It is. Yes. And thank you for asking that. Well, first of all, that's been my lifelong journey, is developing a healthier relationship with food and my body. I also notice that if I, as well as other people, eat foods that are not really in alignment with who we are, that supports our body, it throws us off. So if I personally eat, what's an example? I think I had it the other day.
French fries.
Okay, we'll use French fries. And let's say I had French fries. What happens to me is I lose my connection. I'm not able to be as intuitive as I normally am. I'm not able to receive my guidance, which also means, guess what? I'm blocking miracles. Mm-hmm. And so even though I love, on occasion, and I did on my 70th birthday, I had a big juicy burger and fries, and I won't even share some of the other things. I celebrated. And I literally had a hangover the next day, by the way. I wasn't drinking alcohol. Oh, wait, that's not true. I did, my sweetheart did make me a margarita. You know, I have like one a year. So I think it is really important. It's a way that you love and honor that body that we were talking about, that the heart's beating and, you know, everything's working, because this is a miraculous machine, if you want to look at it that way. And we've got to care for it. You know, we take our cars in for tune-ups, right? Well, what about this?
And oil changes.
Right. I know you're an expert. And so, but it's really true. We focus on all these other tasks outside of ourselves, and I'm no different. I don't naturally get thirsty. I have to structure and make sure that I get water in. I actually now literally crave vegetables. If I don't have a lot of vegetables in my day, I just don't feel as well.
Right.
You know, and the other thing too is you have to find your mix. I'm personally, unfortunately, very carbs sensitive. So even though I love them, my body doesn't necessarily. I don't get sick. I just get fuller fast. And who knows what else is actually happening. So health is critical, because either if you're caring for your body in a way that supports you, life can support you also more easily.
Let's talk about something we haven't talked about. And it's a huge part of it. And Wendy, what does love got to do with it?
I love it. Everything.
Yeah.
In all honesty, in my world, everything is related to love and relationships. The relationship and love that we have with ourselves and our bodies.
That's the beginning, right? That's where it all starts, because it was my understanding, I can't give you a banana if I don't have a banana. Right?
I have no idea how to respond to that.
Well, it's hard for me to love you if I don't love myself, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But that was a very unique example. And so yes. And we do have to start with ourselves. One of the things that I teach, I now work with energy. And so I teach people how to just fill themselves up with love. And then even energetically, you can then send out love to others. And it's truly miraculous how this works. There is, he's no longer alive. His name is Dr. David Hawking.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Power versus force.
Power
Jackie.
versus force.
Yeah.
And what I loved about his body of work, he researched 30 years, came up with a scale that showed the frequency of emotions. So one of the lowest level frequency of emotions is shame. And then, as you can imagine, anger, frustration, sadness, all of that. And then it keeps moving up to love. And what I love about what he was able to conclude, because at that point in time, I still was struggling to find words to describe what I do. I still don't have a science, a total, this is what happens,
Right.
which I also, by the way, as a side issue, I love, because I now know we don't have to figure everything out.
Right.
And that is a wonderful.
It's part of the mystery. That's
Yes.
what I was always told, that you understand that it's a mystery.
Yeah. And there are solutions, but you just don't have to figure out what they might
Here,
be.
I can help you out. I just learned this new thing, and I don't want to get off topic too much, but I think this will help you, Wendy. There is a new field of study, and it's called quantum biology. Yeah, it's a big thought. But here's the track that I just learned that will help understand all that. We do not smell the way that we've been taught we smell. Right? The molecules of that scent come into our nose, and we pick up the vibration of those molecules that tells our brain what that smells like.
Oh, fascinating.
Really?
I was blown away that now science is proving that it's the vibration, because love is a vibration and
absolutely
energy is a vibration. And I think that's where you were going, was
yes.
Vibration at a high level has a lot more energy than at a lower level.
And what Dr. Hawkins actually concluded that I love, he created a scale so that if I am coming from a place, so let's say, of love, I can positively impact thousands of people. Mm-hmm. I teach kids this. I teach kids about, these kids that you're calling bullies. They're just kids that got their hearts stomped on. And you can send them love because they're just walking. It's how they learned how to survive.
Right.
And I said, they just have empty love wells. You can fill those up. Nobody will know you're doing it. You can do it completely silently. I many mornings sit in my office. I do my own work, my own process. And meditate, and I will send out. I fill myself up first. I send love out to my neighborhood, to my city, my state, and the country and the globe. And do I really know what impact I'm having? No, but if the more that you all can be doing that, the more we stand a chance to finally help our world get into a much healthier state.
Well, isn't that what it's going to take? That is the only way we are going to heal this divide that we're in right now, right?
Yeah.
everyone is going to have to seek for a new level of vibration toward the top of that chart that you're talking about, that Dr.
Yeah.
Hawking. Yeah,
If we could
because there's
just-
no other way.
If we could just, yes, because those people right now that are yelling and screaming and they're angry and they're frustrated and they're hurt and whatever, they're hurt. And this is how they are dealing with it. And we can silently, once again, just keep pouring love into our world. And because it's we have an unlimited supply. And the more we can do that, the more we stand a chance of transforming this, shall we call it, a mess that we find
Existence.
ourselves in.
Yeah. Was it Stephen G. Post that is the head of the Unlimited Love Institute?
I don't know.
I think that's his thing. Yeah, the Unlimited Love Institute. And yeah, so we talked about that.
Oh
But
my
you're
goodness,
right.
ladies. Oh, go ahead, Jack.
I was just going to say that's the only way to make our world better. Is it's not just about making life better for us individually, right? But there's this collective energy out there that is so low vibrational right now that things that we can do to pull everybody else up is what's going to make a difference.
Absolutely. And it's so easy. It really is. That's the one thing you can do to also for yourself individually to shift your life. Provide for yourself, provide for someone else.
Oh my goodness, ladies, we only have about 10 minutes left. It's just this time has just flown by, Wendy. Is there anything else that we are missing? You have such a wonderful book, Create Your Miraculous Life. Cue for Wendy to hold up her book or point to it. It's never too late.
There we go.
Very, very cool. And we jumped around a little bit in the is there something that we're missing? Is there something else that you would like to relay to our listeners today?
You know, one of the things I would just really like to emphasize that it's important for you to take a little step back and really look at what do you really, really want? Whether it be to create more money, whether it be to finally attract love into your life, to help your child, whatever it is, I encourage you to be really honest and reach out for support. There are people like me. I personally offer a little jumpstart package that gives you some time with me. I teach you my methodology because not everybody wants or is in a position to work with me for what is typically 3 months, which is still not that long, given what results we produce.
And what's the regularity of that, Wendy? If I was to choose to work with you, is it once a week, twice a week?
Once a week.
Once a week
Yeah, I make sure, because we're working, if you look at you as a person, as a complex Rubik's Cube, and life experiences kind of get you out of alignment. What we're doing is we're getting you back in alignment. So I'm very committed that you get your results. I rarely do these one session jump starts. And actually I changed it that it's a 2-session because I got to make sure that you're doing okay with the process.
There's a follow-up. Right?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with that personally. I want to make sure people are working with it, feeling okay. So when somebody does a more committed time with me, we're able to really work with what's going on. And as I mentioned, my sweetheart calls me an enigma. And there's probably a little truth to that. And so
I think we all are.
yeah, that's probably true. And so I still have I'm very creative. I have ideas. I'm very connected and get downloads all the time, but I'm also very strategic. So I have this solid business experience, but then, what makes it really sweet is that we really open you up to what I consider the magic and miracles of life.
Entice us with the testimonial, Wendy. So You obviously have worked with lots of people, and you must have gotten some really good feedback. Does one stand out of somebody that you worked with, or a group that you worked with, and then you got a comment like,
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of those. In fact, when somebody first is exploring working with me, because I can't promise what
right,
the results people will have, but I tell people all the time, tongue in cheek, I said, but I'm really counting on that you are not going to be the one to screw up my success rate. So to give you an example, so to give you a couple real quick examples, I worked with somebody who attracted love in the fastest has been 2 weeks. The average is 3 or 4 months. One person was a year, and there was a lot going on in that year. I've worked with people to grow their business to where somebody worked with me and doubled their income in literally 2 months. A woman released 60 pounds in 4 months. And I've helped people find new careers in very short periods of time. So those are a couple of real quickie examples.
some miraculous things, I can tell you.
You know, I never thought I would be in the miracle business. It really came out of my father's Hebrew name was Nissen, and Nissen translates to miracle. And when my son was born, even though I'm very non-denominational in my own life, as well as everybody that I work with, I did give my son a Hebrew name because my dad had just passed away. And his name is Nissen Chaim, which translates to the miracle of life.
Wow.
And that's how my first book, The Miracle That Is Your Life, was birthed. I feel I honor my son, I honor my dad. And in my case, I think I'm a little slow learner. I feel that I was guided to be a voice for miracles in life. Because when it first started happening, I thought, this miracle, I'm a miracle worker. I'm a very humble person. And it felt like very big shoes. But kind of like people started following me and calling me fairy godmother. I did not invent that. And it kept happening. And I went, okay,
Cool.
fine.
It's a very cool nickname, and it comes from somewhere.
It did.
My goodness, Wendy, thank you so much for being on the show today. Did you have a blast? Did I guarantee you that you were going to have a blast?
You did.
And
I
did?
have. Wait, Todd, it was groovy.
My job is done. I've done my job for today. Jackie, any takeaways today? It's a cool show, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And Wendy, I wanted to ask you because I noticed that you have a prayer at the end of each chapter. Why did you include a prayer?
I think it helps. That's really, nobody has asked me that question before.
Leave it to Jackie.
I think it helps people connect again to that desire and to that higher power, whatever you ultimately want to call it. I've never heard anybody call it a doorknob before. But that's okay. I definitely understand what you're saying. And because I think prayer opens our heart. And again, it opens us up to know what matters, to hear our inner guidance system, however you may possibly receive it, and to hopefully receive guidance to help you move forward.
Well, tell our audience where they can find you really quickly. How do they get a hold of you?
Very easy. First of all, the book can be found on Amazon. Both books can be. And Create Your Miraculous Life. It's never too late. You can go to my website, wendydarling.com. There's an RQ assessment that you can take, which is about how you relate to other people. There is also an audio, and both of those components will get you on my email list, so you'll get these wonderful miraculous moment interviews that I'm doing with people right now. And if any of you or your listeners want to offer them, I'm looking for I'm always curious who's going to show up next.
Very
And
cool.
and there are in the book, as well as if you want to reach out to me, Wendy at wendydarling.com, if you have an interest in finding out more specifically, or even a jumpstart offer.
Those links can be found on www.lifemasteryradio.net. Choose to check out Wendy's website, her programs, and especially her book. And lastly, please, please, please make it a great day, because it is all about choice. Bye-bye for now.